Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Okay, so we're going to start by writing this out a little bit bigger, give us a bit more space. So it's minus 6x is less than 60. And we're going to do our tram lines down. And we're going to start by dividing both sides by minus 6. Because that's what this is doing. It's timesing the x by minus 6. So I'm going to divide both sides by minus 6. So that gets rid of the minus 6 on the left-hand side. And it's going to be 60 divided by minus 6, which will be minus 10. Now we've got to be really careful here, because whenever you times or divide both sides by a negative, you must switch the inequality. So instead of pointing to the left, it's now going to point to the right. So our answer is x is greater than minus 10. So let's look through this question to see what information we're given and what information we're looking for. So we're given the acceleration is 13 meters per second squared. We're also given the distance is 19, and we're also given the end velocity, which is v, is 34. And we're looking for the initial velocity. So which of these formulae include a, s, v, and u? That's got a t in it, that's got a t in it, so it's going to be this one here. Let's write that out. V squared equals u squared plus 2as. So that would be 34 squared equals u squared, because that's the one we're looking for, plus 2 times 13 times 19. Okay, so let's just work these parts out. And so we've got 2 times 13 times 19, which is what, 494. And it turns into a solving part, so we're just going to solve this. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 494 from both sides. And so we're left with 662 equals u squared. Then we're just going to square root both sides. And so square root of that is going to be 25.729 blah blah blah. And it says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 25.73. The important thing when choosing a sample is that everyone has an equal chance of being picked. So if you look at method 1, picking the first 30 students who enter the school is going to have a bias, because there might be a difference in the type of person who arrives early to school to the type of person who might arrive later. If we select a class in the school, then they're generally all going to be the same age. So if it's a year 7 class or a year 11 class, they're all going to be the same age. It might seem that it's fair that picking the first 30 students alphabetically, so A to F or whatever, again, that's not fair, because the people at the end of the register don't have an equal chance of being picked. So you need to make sure everyone in your population has an equal chance of being picked. So picking 30 students out of a hat containing all the students' names in is definitely the fairest way of picking a sample from this list. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So one part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 suites. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 suites. So the total number of suites will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. To find the mean, we need to work out the sum of the numbers, basically what they add up to. And what we then do is divide that by the amount of numbers. Now, what this table is telling us is there are 14 students who got a time between 0 and 4 seconds. Now, it's absolutely impossible to work out what time those students got with the information in this table. So what we need to do is we need to assume they all got, say, 0 seconds or all got 4 seconds. And the fairest value to say that they all got is what we call the midpoint. And to find the midpoint, what you do is you add up the lower bound and the upper bound, so the highest value and the lowest value, add them together and divide by 2. So 0 plus 4 divided by 2, which is just 2. And that gives us a halfway number, which is fair to everyone. So the students roughly probably got 1s, 2s and 3s, and maybe a few 4s maybe. And the average of that is going to be 2, so that's fair for everyone. Same with the 4 and the 8. Halfway between 4 and 8 is 6, and you can add them together, 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Go down finding the midpoints, and we're just going to assume the students all scored the same amount, all got the same time. Then we're going to do our FS column, okay? And so we're assuming that 14 students got a time of 2 seconds. So when you times those together, you get 28. And we're just going to times all of these together. Okay, next we're going to work out the sum of the FS. And to work that out, we just add all of these up together. So we're going to do 28 plus 36 plus 30 plus 126 plus 36. And when you add them all up, you get 256. Now, that will give us the sum of numbers, so we're going to put that into our working out now. And we need to find out how many numbers there are. Well, the frequency column will tell us how many numbers there are, so we're just going to add all of those up together. So we're going to find the sum of the frequency, which is 14 plus 6 plus 3 plus 9 plus 2, which is 34. And when we do 256 divided by 34, we get 7.529, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so we're going to round it to 7.53. There's a very specific way to draw an angle bisector, and you start off with a pair of compasses and put the point on B, and then draw an arc from B. And it doesn't matter what the distance is, as long as it's kind of roughly maybe halfway between A and B. But it doesn't matter what the distance is. And then at the 2 points, so here and here, that our arc intersects line AB and BC, we're going to draw another arc up here. So I'm just going to show you, because it's normally easier. So an arc over here, and I'm going to do an arc from the other one over here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to join where the 2 lines join with where the 2 arcs join. And that is how you do an angle bisector. All of the arcs leave on the diagram because they are going to get you the marks. Arcs for marks. We can keep this as an interior angle, but it's actually sometimes easier to convert it to an exterior angle. And what you might know is that the sum of interior and exterior angles is going to be 180 because they will always form a straight line. So to find the exterior angle, all we need to do is 180 take away the 170, and that means it will be 10 degrees. So we've already done a different formula for exterior angle, which is 360 divided by n. And something we can do is we can just swap these two things around. And so we can make the formula that n equals 360 divided by the exterior angle. So 360 divided by the exterior angle, well, we know that the exterior angle is 10, therefore n is 360 divided by 10, which would be 36. So we're just going to substitute the values that were given into the formula. So v squared equals, and then u is 16.4 squared plus 2 times a, which is 0.2, times s, which is 110.2. Type that into the calculator and you get 313.039 blah blah blah. And what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly solve this by square rooting both sides, because it's v squared equals and we just want v equals. So v equals, and we're just going to square root that on the calculator, 17.692 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, that's just going to be 17.69. To find an error interval, I first of all start with drawing a number line. And the box is 130 centimeters, so we're going to put that in the middle when rounded. And it's to the nearest 10 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away 10 centimeters, which will be 120, and add 10 centimeters. So the number line will be going up in tens because it's rounded to the nearest 10. To find the lower bound, what I do is I find the halfway point here, and to find the upper bound, the maximum it can be, I find the midway point here. So the midway point here would be 125, halfway between 120 and 130, and the midway point here will be 135, which is halfway between 130 and 140. So those will be our lower and upper bounds, the minimum and maximum it could have been before rounding. We're representing this with a h. And what we're going to do is we're going to show this as inequalities. Whenever you do an error interval, you show it with inequalities. So it can be 125, so we're going to put a line underneath the inequality there, but it can't be 135. It can be anything up until 135, because if it was 135, it would round to 140. So the way this formula works is we have m, which is the final amount. The 2000 here is our initial amount. The decimal in here is our multiplier, and the power here is the amount of years. So the way multipliers work is they are the percentage divided by 100. So if we go the other way and times it by 100 to make it back into a percentage, it will be 102.9%. Now it says, what is the interest rate of the bank? Well, the interest rate is always going to be 100%. Well, this 102.9% is 100% plus the interest rate, which will equal the 102.9%. So the interest rate is going to be the 2.9%. You always start off with 100%. So if I put £5 into my bank, I've got 100% of that £5, and then the interest rate is on top of that 100%. So our answer here will be 2.9%. So this question will probably need a Venn diagram just to make it a bit easier. So I'm going to draw a Venn diagram. You don't need to. If you can work out how to do this question without, you can do. But I think this is a really tricky question to do without a Venn diagram. So it says that they picked two activities. It was either painting, which I'll put as a P, and sport, which I'll put as an S. So let's start filling in the information it gives us. So 11 picked painting and sport, so that will go in the middle, because that is painting and sport, and 11 didn't pick painting or sport, so they can sit on the outside. Now here's the problem. It says twice as many people picked sport than painting as one of their activities. So it's saying that the total number in, and let's just show it, the total number in the sport circle is twice as big as the total number in the painting circle. Now, what we can do is we can say, okay, so if the painting we label as X, then the sport will be 2X. But if you look, we've already got a number already in the sport, that 11 there. So in algebra, this will be 2X, take away the 11 that we already know about. And the painting is the same. We know the whole thing is X. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take away the bit we know there, which is the 11, and it will be X minus 11. Now we know that there are 66 students in total. So what we can do now is add up all of the parts of the Venn diagram and get it equal to 66. So X minus 11 plus 11 plus 2X minus 11 plus 11, and all of that will equal 66. This is going to be some solving, so we're just going to put our lines in. Now here we've got X plus 2X, which is 3X. And if I put my tool right, there we are. And we've got minus 11 plus 11, minus 11 plus 11. Well, those just cancel out. So we're left with just the 3X equals, and then 66. I'm going to divide that 3 both sides. So we've got X equals 22. So if we go back to our Venn diagram now, we can fill in the blanks. So instead of X minus 11 there, we've got 22 take away 11, which is just 11. Instead of 2X minus 11 there, we've got 22 times 2, which is 44, take away 11, which will be 33. So it says, find the amount that picked sport and not painting, which is this 33 here. So there are 3 parts that we need to find the area of. We're going to start with the easiest bit first, this circle at the bottom here. Okay, so the circle area is just going to be pi times r squared, and the radius is given to us at the top, which is 9, so it's just going to be pi times 9 squared, and that would be 254.469 blah blah blah. Or we could leave it as 81 pi. Next bit is the curved bit of the cylinder, so we're going to do the cylinder next. And it's just the curved bit, and the formula for that is 2 pi r h. So 2 times pi times the radius, which is 9, times the height, which is 30, and that will give us 1696.460 blah blah blah. And the last bit is this hemisphere here. And so let's do the hemisphere. And the formula for the area of a hemisphere, well, this full sphere is 4 times pi times r squared, but because it's a hemisphere, it's half of that. And so it'd be half times 4 times pi times the 9 squared, and that will give us 508.938. And so the final thing is to work out the total area, so total surface area, and we're just going to add up all these numbers together. So we add up the 254.469, the 1696.460 blah blah blah, and the 508.938 blah 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 blah, and we get 2459.867 blah blah blah. Do make sure you show the examiner that you're adding these three here. I've not done that because it wastes a bit of time for a video, but make sure you write it down. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that will be 2,459.87 centimeters squared. With these questions, it's normally easier to view these as two separate triangles. So we've got a small triangle here with 19 and 47. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out. And we've got a bigger triangle here. And we've got, well, we've got a bit of, we don't really know what any of the sides are just yet, but we can work them out. Okay, now we know that both of these triangles are similar, and the reason is they share an angle and the lengths at the bottom are parallel, so they will be similar, which means one's an enlargement of the other. And we are given some information in the question that the ratio of BC to DE is 1 to 6. So BC is this length here, and DE is this length here. So we're actually given the scale factor because we know that 1 times 6 is 6. So we know the scale factor is 6, and it's asking us to find length AD. And so the corresponding length to AD, which is this one here. So all we need to do is get that 47, times it by the scale factor, so times it by 6 to get to our value. So it's 282. So to draw a box plot, we need 5 points. We need the lowest point, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, and highest point. Now we already have the lowest and highest points, so we can put those onto our box plot now. So the lowest point is at 0 and the highest point is at 30, as we can see on the cumulative frequency graph. So we need to now find out where the median is. Now the graph goes up to 20, the actual line goes up to 20, so the median we're going to find at 10. We're just going to draw a line across and down, and that looks like it is 17. So our median will be at 17. So we're just going to draw a line at 17. Get it just perfect. There we are. Okay, next thing we're going to look for the lower quartile. So if the median we drew a line across at 10, the lower quartile would do it at 5, which will be here. So that's at 12. So we're just going to draw a line up from 12. Fill in this box, and we can actually fill it in with the lowest point. And lastly, we need our upper quartile, and we do that by adding the 5 and the 10 together to make 15. So we're going to draw a line across from 15 and down, and that's 23. So a line up from 23. Try and get this as nicely as I can. I need to move that line a little bit. Oops. There we go. And let's fill in the last bit, join it up with the highest point. And there's our box plot. An exponential growth would show an increase from left to right, but the graph we've got in front of us, or the sketch, is showing it decreasing, so it's going to be a decay. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just a quick sketch of this diagram. So we're told the lengths are 8 and 6, and the angle between the lengths is 64 degrees. And we've kind of got a missing length down here which we need to find. So we need to find that one. Okay, so let's label them. Now we're going to be using the cosine formula. So cosine formula involves angle A. So we're going to label the angle A. And the one opposite, the one we label as A, is going to be little a. and then little b and little c, it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter which way around you do them. So we're going to write down the cosine formula. So it's a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And so that would be x squared equals, and that will be 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 8 times 6 times cos 64. And that will be x squared equals 57.916 blah blah blah. And we just need to solve this, and we can solve it by just square rooting both sides. So it would be x equals 7.61000 blah blah blah. Okay, we're asked for the perimeter, and so we need to do 8 plus 6 plus that 7.610 blah blah blah. I've still got on my calculator, and that equals 21.610 blah blah blah. It says it wants its 2 decimal places, so it will be 21.61. We're going to start by working out what outcomes will give us 2 different types of drink. So we could have OA or AO. We could have AW or WA. And we could have OW or WO. Now what we notice really when we do this is that OA gives us the same probability as AO. Same with AW and WA, same with OW and WO. So we're going to just ignore the right hand side ones, and we're just going to focus on the left hand side ones. To work out the probability of O and then A, so orange juice then apple juice, we work out the fact that it's 6 over, well, the probability of picking orange juice first of all is 6 over 27. And then if we picked an orange juice, the probability of picking an apple juice would be 9 over 26. And so that would be 54 over 702. Apple juice then water would be 9 over 27. And then 12 over 26. And so that would be 108 over 702. And then orange juice then water will be 6 over 27 and 12 over 26, and that would be 72 over 702. Now we're looking at the probability of this or this or this, and the word or means add. So the probability of OA or, I should put that in brackets, probability of OA or AW or OW is these added together, and when you add them together you get 234 over 702. Now I said we would deal with the reverse situations now. I'm going to deal with that now. And as I said, OA is going to be equal to AO, AW is equal to WA, and OW is equal to WO. So all we need to do to find the probability that the drinks are different is get the 234 over 702 and just double it. And we can do that by just doubling the numerator. So 468 over 702. That cancels down to 2/3. So there is a 2/3 chance that the drinks will be different. Iteration is a process to find a solution, and we're asked to find the solution for this correct to, or a solution for this correct to 2 decimal places. Now what we're going to do on a calculator is something a bit weird. We're going to literally just press the number 2, and then we're going to press equals. When you do that, it stores the 2 in the calculator's memory. The next thing we're going to do is type in 13, and as soon as you type in the 1, the 2 will disappear. So 13 minus square root of answer. and most calculators call it ANS, answer. On the Casio calculators, it's at the bottom right and then left one, it's next to the equal sign. And then next time we press equals, what it will do is it will get this 2, it will feed it into this, and then it will work out what the next solution is. When you do that, you get a solution of 11.59 when rounded to the 2 decimal places. Press it again, you get 9.60, again rounded to 2 decimal places. Again, 9.90, 9.85. So it's getting closer to something now. 9.86 and then 9.86. So our solution, our answer, is going to be 9.86 because as soon as the number repeats, then you stop and you write down that answer. Okay, so we're given the fact that this is a graph of y equals cos x, but it also says that we're looking for solutions for cos x equals minus 3/4. So if you look at those two things, you'll realise that y equals minus 0.75. And if we plot that on our graph, and it's a bit of an estimate, it doesn't have to be perfect, you can see that there's 2 points which it crosses the graph. Okay? Now, we need to work out what one of these points is, and the way we do that is we do the inverse cos of the minus 0.75, and we do that on a calculator. 138.590 blah blah blah. Now the problems with calculators is they will only ever give us the first solution, so this solution here. They can't give us all the solutions because there are infinite solutions, because this graph is going to go on forever waving up and down, okay, and crossing that line which we've drawn in blue on the graph. So it gives us the first one. The calculator will always give us the first solution, but we can use symmetry to find the next solution. If you look at the graph, we've got this point here, and the whole graph, if I draw a line up, the whole graph is symmetrical. Okay, do you see it? The whole thing is symmetrical. So if the distance here, so the distance between the start and here is 138.590 blah blah blah, then that distance must be the same distance as here. That must also be 138.590 blah blah blah. So to work out what this coordinate is, all we need to do is 360 take away the 138.590. So 360, which is here, take away this bit here that we know, and that will tell us what this bit here, what this coordinate here is. And so we've got, type that into the calculator, you get 221.409 blah blah blah. We want the answer to 2 decimal places, so the first solution is 138.59, and the other solution is 221.41. We're asked to solve this quadratic. It doesn't look like a quadratic yet, but I'm sure it will do at some point. Now, the first thing with this question to focus on is the fractions. We're not going to be able to do anything with this question with those fractions there. And normally, if you see fractions or brackets in a question, the first thing you want to do is get rid of those. So I'm going to start by just copying the question down. So we've got 2 over, and let's just do the other over while I'm here. So we've got 2 over x minus 5. So we've got to get rid of the x minus 5, and we've got to get rid of this x plus 5. We've got plus 8 equals 0. And I'm going to just shift down so we've got loads of space here to be able to do this question, because this is going to be quite a lengthy question. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the fraction on the left hand side, and the way of doing that is I'm just going to times both sides by x minus 5. Now when you times both sides by something and there's more than one term on one of the sides, you've got to times each of the terms. So we're going to start by timesing the left-hand fraction. Well, that will just get rid of the x minus 5 and just leave 2. Then we're going to times the second fraction. So when you times something by a fraction, you just times the numerator. So it becomes 5 brackets x minus 5 over x plus 5. And then we're going to times this 8. In fact, let's just try and keep our pluses consistent. So it would be 8 brackets x minus 5. Now 0 times anything is just 0, so this will just remain as 0. Okay, next we're going to times by the x plus 5 to get rid of that fraction. Both sides. So this will leave us with 2 brackets x plus 5. That will get rid of this fraction here, and we'll just leave the x minus 5, and then this will become 8 brackets x minus 5 brackets x plus 5. And 0 times anything is just 0. Okay, next thing we need to do is multiply out these brackets. So we're left with 2x plus 10 plus 5x minus 25 plus 8x minus, that's a quadratic, so that will be plus, let me try and work it out quickly, it was 8x squared plus 0x minus 200 equals 0. Now notice here in the brackets it's a difference of 2 squares. You've got an x minus 5 and an x plus 5, and difference of 2 squares end up with 0, the coefficient of x being 0. So that's not really a surprise. Collect the like terms, so we've got 8x squared, and that's the only x squared we've got. We've got the 2x and the 5x and the 0x, so we've got a 7x. And we've got we've got plus 10, minus 25, and a minus 200. So what's that? That's minus 215 equals 0. Now, normally when you look at it it doesn't look like it will factorize. If this is on the calculator paper, chances are it will be a question on the on using the quadratic formula. If you look back at the question as well, the biggest clue is it asks for the answer to be to 2 decimal places, so it clearly won't factorize. So we are using the quadratic formula. So for our quadratic formula, we need to know what a equals, and a is the coefficient of the x squared, so a equals 8. We need to know what b equals, and that's the coefficient of the x, that's 7, and we need to know what c equals, and that's the number at the end, which will be minus 215. So the quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and all of that over 2a. So what we're going to type into our calculator will be minus bracket 7. Now I always put them into brackets. You don't need to with this when it's positive, but when it's negative it really does help. Minus 4 times, and then a is 8 times, and then c is minus 215. And students get into problems when they don't put them into brackets. But if you put them into brackets, you'll always be covered. Okay, so to do this, you type that into your calculator with a plus, and you type it into your calculator with a minus. When you type it into the calculator with a plus, you get 4.765, blah, blah, blah. And when you type it into the calculator with a negative, you get minus 5.640, blah, blah, blah. And so that will lead to the solutions of 4.77 to two decimal places, and minus 5.640 to do decimal places. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.